Hey guys, welcome back to Mighty Morphin DJ. I'm DJ, and today I'm going to show you how I make the gauntlets for my Power Ranger cosplays. Let's get into it. Okay, now the first thing you're going to want to do is get yourself a sheet of white vinyl. Now you can find white vinyl at most of your big name craft stores like Hobby Lobby and Joann's. You can also find it online, which is not difficult to do. I like to go to Hobby Lobby because they've always got it, and a lot of the times it's on sale. Now a lot of creators will tell you that you should get some aluminum foil and duct tape and wrap it around your wrist in order to get a template of the shape of your wrist. And that does work. I've seen people do it, but it's just never worked that well for me. So I prefer to just take measurements. So what I do is I take a measurement of my wrist and a measurement of my forearm. I do about 7 inches between the two, and then I just transpose that to the sheet. It's not going to be the perfect shape for my wrist, but it will do what I need it to do, and it's relatively comfortable. So you'll have to take your measuring tape, and you'll have to wrap it around your wrist. Now, if you need somebody to help you with this, that's pretty common. Now, when I measure my wrist, it comes out to about 6 3/4 around here, and then when I go 7 inches up to my forearm, it comes out to about 10 3/4. So that's what works for my wrist, but you'll want to get a measurement around your wrist, right around where the knuckle is here, you know, because that's about where it's going to rest, especially when you have gloves on, and then go 7 inches up from there and do another measurement. And then once you've done that, it helps to write them down so that you won't forget them. Now keep in mind that the measurements will also be determined by how you plan to wear this gauntlet. So if you plan to wear it over the standard tights and glove, then the measurements of your wrist and your forearm should be just fine. But if you plan to wear it over something thicker, like the sleeve of a jacket, which I do for my cosplays, then you may want to make your measurements a little bit bigger, or just wear the jacket when you're taking your measurements to get them more accurate. Now, once you have your measurements, in order to make sure that you're working with a flush surface, because you can see this has some edging on it, it's been cut a few times, so you need one of these. This is called a square. You can get these at hardware stores, you can get them at arts and crafts stores, they're not difficult to find, but you get one of these, and then I like to rest the over top of both sides until I can't see the edge anymore. Once I've done that, I know I'm working with flush surfaces. So, now again, my measurements were 6 3/4 by 10 3/4. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to measure to 10 3/4, which is going to be about here. And then, like I said, you want to go 7 inches from here to here, or at least that's what I do. Your arm might be longer than mine, so you might want to go more than 7 inches. But for my arm, 7 inches is what I like to do. So, here's 7 inches right here, so we want to mark that. Now, also what you want to do while you have this here is mark the center. So, we were at 10 3/4. So, the center of 10 3/4 is 5 3/8. So, we want to go to 5 3/8 and make a center mark. Alright, now, ordinarily what you would have to do is then take it out from this measuring table, turn it around, and then, you know, get some measurements that way. But if you have a second ruler, like I do, you don't have to do all that. So, what you do is just take this ruler, make sure it's flush, go up to 7 inches, which is where I like to measure for my wrist. Again, your wrist might be longer. And now you have a 7-inch mark here and here. So then, all you have to do is get these two lined up with this ruler just like so, and draw your line right there. All right. Now, we need to go again to that 5 3/8 mark, which is right here. So that right there is 5 3/8. All right. Now, what we want to do is measure out from this, because remember, this top part is for my wrist. So this is 6 3/4. So we need to go out from here and this way, 3 3/8. So we go 3 3/8, which is right here, and we make our mark. And then we go out from there 3 3/8, which is right here, and we make our mark. And now when we measure it, is 3 3/4. There we go. Now, it is not super important that this is 100% mathematically precise. As long as you are in the wheelhouse, as long as you're in the ballpark, within 1/8 of an inch or so, you should be fine. And honestly, you don't want it to be too tight. You want it to be a little loose so that it's not cutting off circulation in your wrist. So if you have to go wide, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so, or even 1/16 of an inch, not a big deal. All right, now we have our marks here and here. So we can remove this. Now, 6 3/4, 10 3/4. So what we do is we take the marks that we drew from here, and we line them up with our marks that is at 10 3/4, which is right at the edge of that first line that we drew. So right here, straight line there, and from this mark right here. There we go. This is your template for your wrist gauntlet. Now from here you have two different things you can do. You can either A, just cut it out as straight as you can with a pair of scissors, or you can take a ruler, hold it up against the line, and then cut it as straight as you possibly can with a crafting knife. I'm going to go for the crafting knife this time. Most of the time I use the scissors just because it's easier and it doesn't have to be that precise, but I'm just going to go ahead and use the knife this time just because I feel like it. Okay, now that we have this cut out and ready to go, take some measurements here and here to make sure that it came out how you wanted it. Nothing sucks more than getting it finished and then you go to put it on and it's too tight or too loose. So make sure your measurements are accurate and then you're ready to go. Now once you have this, it's time to put this to the side for a minute and we need to pick a color for the diamonds that we're going to cut out for it. Finn, why am I getting face? Why are you giving me face? And since it's only a matter of time before Hasbro reveals the Yellow Ranger helmet, which is way past due, I'm going to go ahead and use yellow for my gauntlet. Now, in order to make a set of diamonds for one gauntlet, it's a good idea to just have a nice piece of 12 by 12 of whatever color you're going to use. That'll give you plenty of room to work without it being excessive and you don't waste too much vinyl. Now, in order to determine the measurements for your vinyl, it's a good idea to measure how wide you are in the center of your gauntlet. So if this is 6 3/4 and this is 10 3/4, then you're probably looking at it being about 8 3/4 here, but you want to measure it to be absolutely certain. So this is 7 inches, so we're going to go up to about 3.5 inches, which is about right here, and measure a halfway point, which is right there. Now we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Now we're not going to draw a line across this because obviously this is going to be worn on our wrist. So we just want to make two little marks that will easily be covered up. We want to see how wide this is. So this is right at 8 7/8 wide at the center. Now half of 8 7/8 is 4 7/16, which means our diamonds need to be 2 3/16, and that will tell us the width that our diamonds need to be. As for the height of our diamonds, they should be 7 inches, but it wouldn't hurt to do a little less. Maybe like 6 3/4, something like that, just so that you don't have overhang on your gauntlet. So we're going to draw a line that goes all the way across the bottom. And if we want these to be 6 3/4 tall, then we need to go to then we need to make another line right here for 6 3/4. I'm sorry, that's 5 3/4. 6 3/4 right there. And then we make a line across the top. There we go. All right, so this is the top and the bottom of our diamonds. Now, if we want our diamonds to be between 2 3/16 and 2 1/4 inch wide, then we need to figure out what half of that is and create the center point of our diamonds so that we can start drawing diamonds. There's a lot of math involved in this. Now, just to make certain that your diamonds aren't too wide, I'm going to go with 2 3/16, maybe even 2 1/8 wide, for each diamond, just to make sure they don't overhang the sides of our gauntlet, because that can happen and it sucks when it does. So I'm going to go 2 1/8. Hey guys, before we get into the rest of the video, I have a question for you. Do you like my content? Do you want to see more of it? Are you just a fan of the Power Rangers in general? If you said yes to any of these, then I have a small request. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell to receive notifications of future videos. And now, on with the video. Okay, these are the center of our diamonds. So now we got to draw lines going up and down to mark the centers here and here so that we can start going and drawing. All right, now we have the center of our diamonds on the top and bottom. So now we can start drawing lines to draw out the diamonds themselves. All right, now we have our diamonds. So what we're gonna do now is, I'm just gonna use scissors to cut these out because using the crafting knife would just be too difficult. But once they're cut out, they'll be ready to be applied to the gauntlet. All right, we've got our 4 diamonds cut out. Now, if you did it halfway mathematically correct, you may actually be able to use the scrap here, because little triangles would have been cut out of it if you did it that way. And you could actually take 2 of these triangles, put them together, and make another set of diamonds if you want to go that route, so that it's a little bit easier, so you don't have to cut out a whole nother set. But if you'd rather cut out a whole nother set, that will look cleaner. All right, so once the diamonds are cut out, you can lay them across the gauntlet so you can get an idea of how it's going to look. You will see that you may need to make some adjustments. For example, I made these 7 inches tall to match the gauntlet. I should have made them a little shorter. I should have made them about 6 3/4 to avoid this. So what we can do is just cut them off on the edge and make them flush with the bottom of the gauntlet, and that'll be okay. So you'll see that the edges meet here and here fairly well. You might need to fudge that a little bit. This is not a perfect science. I am not a professional by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just good enough to make myself happy. So you may need to fudge it a little bit. You might have to cut a few nicks here and there. But once you get to this stage, you have a few options. You can either sew them onto the white vinyl, which is my preference because I like how clean that looks. You could apply hot glue or contact adhesive to apply them. You could also use Velcro. You can buy Velcro at Walmart, any Hobby Lobby or craft store, and use that to just stick them on with Velcro. And if you do that, you won't have to make another white piece, because then you can just peel the colored ones off and apply the next color, and all you'll have to do is cut out the diamonds. Now, I don't like to do that because I think that sewing the diamonds on here looks cleaner, but that's just my preference. Now, as far as wearing the gauntlet, you have a few options that way as well. So, if you are like me, you'll want to use a zipper, and you would get a 7-inch zipper or the length that you cut it to, and then you would just have it applied so that you can just zip it up and down. But you have a few options. You can either hot glue it to the inside of the gauntlet, or you can have it sewn on as well. I prefer to have it sewn on, but you can hot glue it if you want to. And again, you can get zippers at Hobby Lobby, you can get them at Joann's, you can get them online, they're very easy to get. You can also apply, once again, Velcro. So you would apply Velcro to the inside of the gauntlet, and then you would apply a piece of Velcro on the outside of the gauntlet. So then you can wrap it and wear it like this, and that it would attach that way. Note that if you choose to use Velcro, you need to give the gauntlet at least an extra inch here and here in width, so to make up for the Velcro so that you can wrap it around you. Because if you put Velcro on this, it's not going to wrap around your wrist. It's going to be too short because you need the extra length to make it overlap. So if you choose to use Velcro, you can do that. That may be what I do next time around, just to see how it works, just to see how it looks. Now, here is an example of a completed gauntlet. So, like I said before, I like to sew my diamonds on. I think that gives it a cleaner look, but you can use glue gun, you can use Velcro, you can use whatever you want. This is your cosplay. Do it how you want to do it to make yourself happy. You could also commission somebody to have things like this sewn. So, there's a lot of options. I always opt for a zipper because I just like how tight I can get the zipper. So, I would... Now, 7-inch zippers typically are connected at the bottom. They don't come in two pieces, so you'll want to put the connected piece of the zipper at the bottom, at the base, so that it's wider. That way it's easier to get on, and then once you've got it on, you would zip it up. And that can be kind of difficult, so there you go. So this is the black one that I recently made, and then here is the blue one that I made, and I know you guys have seen pictures of my Blue Ranger cosplay, and I made this one for that as well. So these come out pretty well, and they don't have to be absolutely beautifully perfect unless you just want them to be. It is challenging when you're new to crafting, and I'm still fairly new to it myself, so there's still a lot that I have to learn that I have not learned yet. But what I just gave you are the basics of how to do this. Again, you have a lot of options. You can use glue, you can use Velcro, you can sew, you can use contact adhesive. You have a lot of different options there. The hardest part for me is just getting the measurements for the diamonds and the measurements for the gauntlet itself. Now, I know the measurements for my gauntlet, but then having to get the center of it, because it's always a little bit different because you never cut the same way twice, and then you got to get the center of the diamonds, and then you got to cut that in half, and you have to use a calculator, and you have to do all kinds of math to figure out what, this measurement is divided by 2, and it's a big pain in the butt. So that for me is the hardest part, but once you have kind of figured that part out, you can write all that stuff down so you'll have a decent idea of what it's going to look like. Then you can go ahead and apply it however you want. Alright guys, there you have it. That is how I like to make my Power Ranger wrist gauntlets. Now, obviously there are lots of ways to do this, and there are lots of different materials you can do it with. I like to use vinyl. Some guys like to use EVA foam combined with vinyl. I just like to use the vinyl because it's lighter and easier to work with. Now, eventually, I will have an Etsy page up, and I will be retailing these and making them for people custom order, so be on the lookout for that. I'm still trying to figure out how Etsy works. It's not as easy as you would have thought. But if you just want to make them yourselves, I've just given you the tutorial, so go ahead and give it a shot, and if you make it work, send me a picture of it. Let me know how it looks. All my social medias are in the description below. Hit me up and let me know how your cosplay is looking. Stay tuned for another video in my playlist Ranger Gear by DJ, where I will show you how to make the bracers for Power Ranger boots. But until then, if you have enjoyed this video, then why don't you check out this video right here and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. This has been Mighty Morphin DJ. I'm DJ, and you know what time it is.